Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special open workshop of the Third Board of Directors. We do not have a quorum, so I can't establish it. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, good. It is approved by consensus. So at this point, we have member comments. Bill, would you like to make a comment? Because you're a member. Thank God. Thank God for Bill.
That's right.
You don't have to give your name.
Is this
to the-
on? I don't really have a comment.
that on?
I just want to see the presentation, and then maybe afterwards I can make some comments.
Okay.
But, thanks.
Thank you.
Should bring him up here as an advisor.
So soon we'll have this, who is going to do, here's John, one more is sneaked
We got a
in,
quorum
come
now.
in. No,
I
we only
called
have,
and left a message.
all right. Okay, we have a
got
quorum
five.
because we only have 9 board members in the area. Okay, so I have a comment, I question before we start. What is the method for, and this is for you, for determining if a light is out? Other than me sending you an email?
So, yes, if a light is out,
How does Siemens know that a light is out?
well,
Does somebody ride around at night?
we
what
have,
is that method?
Siemens does not know when a light is out. We have to let them know. It's not part of their contract to know, it's part of their contract to fix. So
Okay.
when the light is out in the community, you need to report it to resident services. It's helpful if we can, each pole has a number on them. It's helpful if the resident can get that number for us. If not, at least some proximity. And the reason for that is we have 2 sets of poles in Third now. One set of pole, which is in the streets, are now being addressed, the O&M is being addressed by Siemens under contract with the mutual. And then there are others that are actually walkway lights that are not being addressed by Siemens because they still belong to Edison. So once the call comes in, the resident service rep have to discern whether it's a Siemens or an Edison pole. So it goes in both, wherever it belongs.
Well, I would suggest, and I'm very glad that we have communications here, that we do some quick little thing, maybe in next month's newsletter, where we remind the residents, if you see a light pole light out, this is what you do. Because I thought, really, honestly, and here I am a board member, I thought that Siemens was checking the lights. And we should also enlist security to
Security.
note that.
Right.
So have you worked with Tim to add to the burden of security so that they could do that?
No,
I
security,
was being
no,
facetious,
right.
in
So
case you didn't know that, no.
So security, no, as you know, a light out is difficult to discern during the daytime, so
Right,
staff,
so but the
so
security's
sec-
on patrol at night, do they let you
Exactly.
know?
So security knows that if there's a light out somewhere,
They do know.
they need to report it.
Do they know? Have they
yes.
reported any ever?
I think they have in the past. I
Okay, well, could
don't-
you reinforce that?
Absolutely. And we'll work with communications to put
So,
something
yeah,
out.
to remind the residents and to have security do it. Yeah, that engaged Bill.
Yes. Last week I sent in I went to the website. It contacted us, went down and put in all the particulars of a cul-de-sac light that was out. I got a nice reply the next day from Chris and her group that they had received the email and that they would take action on it.
And
So
the
it
light,
seemed
is
to
the
work.
light still out?
I didn't go back and check at night, but it's my friends. But this was only about 3 or 4 days ago, so I got to give Siemens some time to get out there to get it changed. But anyway, I thought that the process worked.
Yeah, but you know the process. I didn't know the process.
Right, okay.
I sent a note to Ernesto and he told me to go get the number. And I said, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
what are we supposed to do? Jump out of the car?
And it does help to be 6 feet tall and be able to look up there
Right.
and look
No, and I go
at
like,
the
no.
aluminum
So-
number on there. It
You gotta
takes a
have
little
your
bit to see it.
binoculars with
They're
you.
pretty
Yeah,
hard.
I think in the article that we do, I wouldn't put too much what number the pole is because people start laughing. I was laughing.
I sent the cul-de-sac number and the manor number in which, which the pole was standing in front of.
Yeah,
Proximity.
the
Well,
building.
I
the-
said it was on the street.
So the general location helps. The other thing to bear in mind is that Siemens now has responsibility for your street light poles, and Edison continues to have responsibility for a lot of your walkway lighting poles. A lot of the Siemens poles, Siemens may not be able to address the issue when it's reported to them if it's something dealing with the wires that go up to the pole, in which case we have to get with Edison.
Right,
So,
but
yeah.
at least you'll know about it.
Exactly.
And,
yeah,
and
so-
the thing is if we're following a procedure and the light can't be fixed for, immediately or within 2 or 3 days or whatever your time frame is, I would hope that someone is, in our fabulous process, gets back to the resident and say, thank you for reporting this. I don't think we're there yet.
No.
Well, thank you for reporting this. It's going to take a little longer. All right. Okay, in any case, I was very curious, and being that this is a Siemens meeting, I thought I would ask. So now I am going to turn it over to you, Ernesto.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. So very quickly, I just want to summarize where we're at from where we began this process. And then I'm going to turn it over to Siemens to do the presentation, and I will interject as they go through. As you remember, in July 15th, the Third Mutual purchased the option to place the streetlights valued in the queue for Southern California Edison for the acquisition program to purchase these lights. On September 17th, the board approved a purchase and sale agreements with Edison for $232,000 for the acquisition of the streetlights located within the mutual. In February 2018, the mutual awarded a contract to Siemens to assist staff with the purchase of the streetlights and with the performing a computerized modeling for the pilot programs that we anticipated having to determine what the best LED fixtures were for changing the high-power sodiums that we have right now. Also, they were, part of the contract was to perform the change-out from high-power sodium to LED. And additionally, there was, we entered into a 3-year maintenance and operations agreement with Siemens. So the acquisition process ended in, at the end of 2018, Siemens completed their inventory for the acquisition process. And in January this year, we completed the audit, and Edison invoiced for $233,966 for the streetlight poles acquisition. In June, staff, with the assistance from Siemens and Southern California, completed what we call the true-up process. That's to make sure that the list that Edison had of the poles was in agreement with what our consultant Siemens came up with, to make sure that we were talking about the same thing. Bless you.
Thank you.
So that was completed in June, and as a result of that true-up process, we received a credit from Southern California Edison, and this is a shocker. I never hear of a credit from Southern California Edison. But we got a $3,000 check for reducing.
Did you cash it?
Did it bounce?
Okay, so what did we get the $3,000 check for?
That was for reducing by 10 the number of streetlight poles in the purchase agreement. So we had estimated high, and as Siemens went through and we went through the through-up process, we realized that there were 10 poles in there that really didn't belong on the list. So we got that money back. So we completed all of that. And now we're in the conversion process, on the conversion phase of the contract with Siemens. And as you well know, a pilot program was put in place. The purpose of the pilot program was to install a variety of lighting fixtures to assist with the selection of the best LED fixture for the mutual. And in March this year, Siemens installed 3 groups of lights for the first pilot number 1, which consisted of 3 lights each on Avenida Sosiega. The groups were described, will be described again by Gary, who's here representing Siemens today, and he'll talk about the fixtures that were actually placed out there. On April 8th, after the fixtures had already been located out there and we received feedback from the community, that feedback was gathered, and we conducted another meeting with the board. That was April 8th. And there were many comments made. Some of these comments were related to the fact that it was felt that, one, there was too much variability in the community to just accept the poles that had been placed out there in Avenida Sosiega. You know, that was just one type of situation, and we have many types of situations in the community. Some of those additional locations or situations, as I'm calling them, include what happens in a cul-de-sac situation. You know, it's not the same as putting a light on Avenida Sosiega. We don't know how that light fixture is going to react in a cul-de-sac situation. The other situation that was mentioned that we didn't address with the Sosiega project was the fact that we had an intersection fixtures that, again, were not representative of what we put out at Avenida Sosiega. So we wanted to address intersections and how those intersections are lit. And then, of course, was the other, some of the things that were mentioned were the different pole heights that we have in the community. We have poles, a range of pole heights, so how did those fixtures react on different pole heights? Another comment that was made was relative to the brightness, of not the brightness, but the heat on the lamp. It's actually the Kelvin measured on that lamp. And comments were made, and that the heat that we had provided initially, that 3,000 Kelvin, could be that the illumination could be improved with a 4,000 Kelvin. Siemens had recommended at the 3,000 Kelvin because that's typically what's used in a municipality and a street situation. In fact, you can ask any municipality that has upgraded. They'll tell you that 3,000 is what's used. That's typically for the combination of pedestrian and vehicular use of a thoroughfare. That's your best use because it doesn't blind, it doesn't provide glare, and provides adequate illumination. And when we're in court, when there's a fatality, and I'm talking about in a municipality setting now, it is very important that gets considered very, very carefully as to what illumination you put out there. And the 3,000 Kelvin has been pretty much the standard. And that's why Siemens proposed that. However, because the comments were made that we wanted to see what a 4,000 Kelvin bulb would do, or fixture, that will also be included in this new pilot that's being proposed. So the direction that was given to staff is to put together a scope of work for Siemens to go back out there and address all of these concerns and all of these variations, and to have Siemens propose on it. And Siemens has done that. They've given us a proposal. So today, the goal of today's meeting is to have the board direct staff to either move forward with the proposal as Siemens has provided it, and we've distributed the cost of those proposals to you. We can get into the details and answer questions relative to that. So that's one goal today, to direct staff to move forward with the pilot. So we can install it out there, gather feedback, and bring it back for a final decision on this. The other goal is to select a new fixture. One of the things that we heard at the meeting on April 8th was that the fixtures that we have provided did not provide enough variability in the type of fixtures. And let me say that there's hundreds of fixtures out there. So we can do pilots till kingdom come. And so be careful about that. We do have, so Siemens have gone out, we directed them, hey, give us 4 additional fixtures that you, Siemens, as the worldwide expert in lighting, can recommend to us, so that the board can take a look at those 4 fixtures, evaluate them based on their merits, and select 1 additional fixtures to add to the mix of fixtures that we've already installed out there with Pilot 1. So what the next goal today will be to select 1 fixture of the 4 additional fixtures that are being provided by Siemens as recommended fixtures to add to the mix today. So 2 things. 1, direct staff to move forward with the proposal, and 2, select a new fixture so that we can add that new fixture to the mix. So it's not that we're going to be using just that one fixture, we're actually adding a new fixture to the mix of fixtures that have already been put out there.
I got a question on that though.
Okay.
Because those that were already out there don't fit the needs of like cul-de-sacs and certain intersections. That's why we wanted a mix of new ones. not just
Exactly.
one.
Exactly. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to use an existing fixture that we already used, that was recommended by Siemens and staff during the first pilot. And we're gonna take that fixture and we're gonna put it in a cul-de-sac setting. But in addition to that, we're gonna take the new fixture that you select and also put that in a cul-de-sac setting so that you can see the difference between the two. In addition to that, we're going to make sure that each fixture has a 3,000 and a 4,000 Kelvin, light, so that you can see the difference not only between the two different fixtures, but also between the heat on the lamp. So a lot of variables are being addressed.
But I still come back to, if we're only gonna pick one more to put in, that may be good for a cul-de-sac, but it may not be good for certain intersections.
That's correct. That's why we're addressing, so this new pilot, when we say new pilot, it's actually 4 pilots that you're purchasing here.
Over and above the ones we already saw.
Over above the one that we already
Oh,
did.
okay.
So it's 4 pilots. We're gonna be deploying 1 pilot at intersections, and that'll use cover heads, because that's what we have at intersections on your medians.
We have both. We're doing both at the cul-de-sac. I mean,
Right,
at the
at
intersection.
the intersection. So you have both, but we'll be addressing the cover heads that you currently have at intersections, as well as the mushroom type fixtures. And then within that mix, we're adding a 3,000 and a 4,000 for each individual fixture. So again, this is to address all of the concerns that were brought up last time.
So
Yes.
basically, we're going to have the existing or the fixture that they recommend and 1 more fixture.
That is correct.
And I'm gonna look at our wizards now, I'm looking at you, Steve. Isn't that a compliment? And Bill, is 1 more fixture what we were after? See, because I'm not saying that the people are gonna live in a community that has a light show and we're gonna have, 10 different fixtures on the streets. We
No.
understand that. We just felt that we were sort of being forced down the Siemens lane as opposed to taking the advice of our very expert resident, Bill, and our very expert advisor and the board. So, but it doesn't seem we've gotten much further than that. Why and how can we pick that second light here in this room? I mean, I thought we would actually see the light.
And that's exactly
But we're
what,
not gonna see the light. We have to pick 1 light to see. Am I going off the deep end here? I'm gonna ask Steve to speak now, because he's ready.
Well, yes, I'm kind of ready.
Oh, well, do you want time to get ready?
No, because I'm reviewing the packet that was distributed, and I've looked at the fixtures, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet, and then I'm looking at page 14, which is the locations for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm trying to discern, first off, which fixture is going to be at each one of 1, 2, 3,
I'm gonna go
I know.
into that in the
So, but
excruciating detail.
just to address her
Yeah, no, but just so you know.
question for me.
I'll go into that
Right.
detail when we get
So
into it.
until I have a better idea of which fixtures they're talking about putting in the locations.
That's part of the
And,
presentation.
but I share your concern, Rosemarie, that if this pilot, and it's going to be a cost of $20,000 to $23,000 plus or minus, depending on
Depending on which fixture you
one is
select.
picked. Right. So, and I share your concern in that regard, because if we're, doing this pilot and we're using 3 of the fixtures that we already piloted, and we're just putting them in different locations. And we're being asked, here's
we're
4
not.
other, pick one. I would share your concern in that regard, that we're paying 20-some odd $1,000 to pilot one more lamp, which we have to pick based on what's presented today.
Well, if I may, that's a little bit inaccurate.
Okay.
You're not paying.
That's what we heard.
Right, but that's not accurate. What you're paying for is to pilot 4 different locations. So you're asking Siemens to go out.
Okay, all right.
To go
Well,
out
as long-
there. Yeah.
Again, we're concerned about, we don't think that we're given much opportunity to understand or look at lights. So if there are a million bazillion different lights, why is this happening? Is that what, so you could translate that into more,
So I would
more
just ask
better
one,
language.
I would just ask one question. The cost of each of the 4 different possible selections out of the total cost of the pilot, the last column, that the cost for the particular 1, 2, 3, 4 options is that extended price, so that one is $9,700, the other one is $7,900, the other is $7,400, and the other one is $10,000 and change.
Correct.
For that one individual
For that
fixture,
particular
for that
fixture,
pilot.
yes.
So, therefore, I'll conclude, that if we wanted to see more than one of these 4 options, that they would be gradual income, increments of between $7,400 and the $10,000 as stated in the area, right? Okay. So and we haven't gotten to the presentation, but again, as Rosemarie says, we can look at specifications on a page, and we can see, good, better, best, whatever, and that's fine and dandy. They're more familiar with the technical aspects than we are. At the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding when the lights are up and you look at them and say, yeah, that looks okay, but if we're only selecting one, instead of seeing all 4, for example, and saying, 2 of them were okay, but that one really works, and we would care to spend more money. So I understand that concern. And so I guess at some point following the presentation, we'll have to have the board make a determination of how much they want to spend on the pilots if they want to see more than one fixture.
Absolutely. So that's very good. Those are very good points. So we're going to be adding 1 additional new fixture to the mix. The proposal that you have before you is to install 4 additional pilots utilizing the lamps that you already have, that you said, we need to see what this lamp.
We
Yeah.
understand
Yeah,
that.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
okay.
thing is, but you're still, we have one that is recommended and one that we're picking, and this lumen and that lumen, which comes up to 4. And we're saying, why isn't it the one that you're recommending and number 1 and number 2? So that's what I think that's what we're feeling. So what you have to
Yeah,
do
well, we are.
in your professional manner is to convince us that we're not shopping for hats, and whatever, and we should, whatever, trust me, but I don't know. So, okay, so.
No, I think that's good. Those are some good comments. So I'm going to allow Gary to go through the presentation and to see if he gives you a comfortable feeling relative to the characteristics, costs, and performance of the 4 different fixtures that he's provided here, so that you can make a decision as to which one you like to select.
All right, Ernesto, we have to stop calling them 4 different fixtures, because they're just 2 fixtures with 2 different levels of lighting. So it isn't 4 different fixtures unless I'm deaf.
Well,
It's not 4, it's
It
2
is.
fixtures with 200 and 300. So don't keep saying it's 4, it's 4 different displays, so Bill, come up, because I'm having a
No,
breakdown.
ultimately,
I'm too young for
no,
this.
you're correct. Ultimately, what you're gonna get out there is 1 additional fixture
Right.
added to the mix of fixtures that you already have. But there is 4 fixtures that Siemens will be discussing so that you can evaluate those and make a decision as to which one of those four you want to add to the mix. So just want to make sure that.
You may want to
Add two,
add two.
and then we'll.
We
figure-
can-
That would be an additional.
We can add all four. I mean,
Well,
we're.
let's
look-
not
we-
get crazy.
Yeah,
right.
let's, we're
So
looking at
Is that
cost.
two at each location? Two different ones at each location so you can compare the situation?
That's correct. So the way we've structured this is the fixture that you select
Crazy.
will be placed at each location with two different heats.
Like in a cul-de-sac, you'll
3,000
have two.
Exactly.
In a certain
3,000
ci-
and 4,000.
A certain intersection, you'll have two.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, Ernesto, I'm looking here at the map where these are, in this area that I walk in a lot. And just for information, the ones are going down Calle Sonora, which I believe those are probably 25 to 30-foot poles in there. Is that down the median on those?
Yeah. Looks like it.
In Sonora,
Huh?
30-foot poles.
Yeah, they're 30-foot poles. Okay, so that's going to give you a different aspect. Now, are those on Cobra heads right now?
Those are Cobra heads.
Those are on Cobra heads. When you're doing Cobra heads, I'm not familiar with this, so it's out of my knowledge range. Can you change the diffusers on those? I mean, are there different brands of diffusers? So if you use a 3,000 Kelvin, I'm assuming it comes with a standard, there's Siemens, or the product comes with a standard diffuser.
I'll let Gary respond to that.
Oh, okay. And then a 4,000, you might want to check out another diffuser, even though you're going to get more light. The diffuser may keep the glare down a little bit. But anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah.
The number 2 on this map is a cul-de-sac, okay? And it doesn't have any Cobra heads on it.
That's correct.
Right. Number 4, the 4s have Cobra heads on them.
Number
because they're
4,
right there.
yes,
They
sir.
have- they're
We're
not
going, we're
very tall.
test both, Cobra heads and mushrooms on that.
Right, and those poles are only about 18 feet high, I think.
Those are 25-foot high poles.
they are 25.
And 16-foot high poles.
And 16 foot, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then the threes are the mushroom caps, right?
They're mushrooms, and they're
Right,
16-foot high poles.
All right. The last question is, do any of these fixtures have a directional capability? That is, I'm sitting next to a manor, and I'm trying to project light out onto the street, but if I'm using the same, if it's a real true cone,
Right.
if you wanted to call it that, I've got light coming back into somebody's, so are you going to have to put, you're going to,
Well, that's-
with the lighting, can you do it, or you're going to have to put shield?
That's a very good question. Madam Chair, may I address the question? Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. The fixture that we had recommended, the what's it called? The K427, that has the ability to change the light characteristics and where the light ends up. And that's why we were opposed to just taking a light bulb, as it was suggested by a board member. Yeah, so, no, I won't say names, but in taking a light bulb and just sticking it in there, because then you have no control over where that light ends up, unless you do different things to the fixture. So to answer your question, Bill, yeah, the light characteristic of the mushroom type can be changed, and there's 4 different type characteristics of that light.
Right, and so basically, when you're running down cul-de-sacs, you got light that could go into people's bedrooms at night.
Right.
Or you're running down like Carrizo, and there are manors that are sitting on the edge of
Exactly.
Carrizo, we're number 4, number 3, I mean. Okay. Those are
Yeah,
my
so
questions.
in the worst case scenario where you cannot control the light with the fixture itself,
Right,
you may have to go to a shield. And,
Okay.
and that's typically done in municipalities where you have lights along an alley right next to somebody's bedroom. So you put a shield in the back, but I think that the fixture that was recommended has 4 different type of characteristics is how you can direct the light. And that's a plus.
because part of the reason I asked that question was on Sosiego, where the first pilot was, you could see light going right up the up the hillside, on the bank, and then,
Yeah, particularly on the C pole,
Yeah.
which was just a bulb, was just a retrofit.
You got it.
So we may want to let Siemens go through, because a lot of,
Because I have to take the TV thing at
Can I
noon.
just ask?
yeah, a lot of the questions that you're asking will be
Being
addressed.
taken
Okay.
now.
All right, thanks.
Look at, on here.
Okay, yes, Bunny, did you have a question or you
Well, it
want to
was
wait?
just a quick question, and I think that Ernesto addressed it, but I just want, you can control the light direction, but I think in previous conversations, we can also control, if it's a 3,000 lumen, we can lower the brightness, right? Is there a control
Change that.
as to how much light a particular lamp can do? Am I?
Lumen you're talking about?
Huh?
Lumen, the brightness?
Yeah,
Or
that's
Kelvin?
right.
I'll let Gary address that. Yeah, you
Okay.
can control the wattage on the fixture that you installed.
Right.
You can go with a higher wattage or lower wattage, but I'll let Gary get into that.
Okay.
So if Madam Chair, may I have Siemens
Yeah.
do the, okay, come up, Gary. Go ahead and introduce yourself if you would, please.
Alrighty.
Rosemarie, if I may, just ask a question before you get started.
Maybe we'll get
You started to
sometime.
address the pole heights on some of these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Could you help us by filling in all the pole heights? What's the pole heights on number 2?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to do that.
And
When-
which fixtures are going on those locations so
I'll-
we can cross-reference?
I'll do that through the presentation. Yes, I'll do that.
Well, if we knew it now, as he talks about it,
It'll be easier if I can put a
Okay.
map up on the screen.
Okay.
And show you with the
Fine.
map so that you can correlate to the location itself.
got you. Okay, thank you.
Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Madam Chair, board members, thank you for having me here today. My name is Gary Kochetkov. I'm the project manager from Siemens, assigned to the retrofit project here in the community. Last time Siemens was here, you saw my colleague Alexander Valenti, the account manager here. He wasn't able to make it today. You're stuck with me. So just like Ernesto was saying, we're here to talk about Pilot 2, and I think there were a lot of questions going around. I hope to address a lot of those. Just to step back, the purpose of this entire program is to change the lights in the community to LED lighting, improve light quality, improve safety, etc. To get there, all of us together need to decide on which lights we'd actually like to install in the community. And to do that, we have Pilot Program 2 to decide that. Pilot Program 2 has some options, and that's the purpose of today's presentation and the purpose of today's meeting is to determine among the options available for Pilot 2, which would we like to test. And then later, we'll go through Pilot 2, and then there will be another decision-making process where we can align on a fixture that we'd like to proceed with. So to recap some of what we already discussed today, what is out there today? These are some photos I took earlier on in the project. We have 759 streetlight poles. Almost all of these are post-top mushroom fixtures. You can see that they are slightly weathered. Some of them are bent a little bit out of shape. But for their age, I think they're looking pretty good. I think they're about 30 or 40 years old. And like Ernesto said, for pilot number 1, we were looking at 3 different types of technologies. We were thinking about installing GE Cobra heads at all of the locations, looking at new fixture post-top replacements, the King K427s that you see there, and also retrofit kits, which would reuse the existing fixtures that we just saw on the previous slide, but replace the lamp and the reflector with an LED element inside. So we evaluated all 3 of those, and these may look familiar to you. If you're
Gary,
looking at-
if we can go back. So I just wanted to point out that B is the King K427 mushroom head, which is the one we recommended before. We're still recommending that as the best possible option for the mutual. I just wanted to point that out. So that will be also deployed with the new pilot, side by side with the new fixture that you select.
Exactly, yes. Of the 3 technologies evaluated in pilot number 1, the option B, the King K427, was the best one. And these are the photos of the lights installed. And that was our recommendation going into pilot 1 as well as coming out of it. The King K427, that was the full fixture replacement type. The reason we recommended this above the other 2 technologies was that it has better light quality and performance. And we were talking earlier about the directionality of the lights and what kind of shapes the lights can produce. The technical term is the distributions. And those are along the right side of the slide here, the type 2, 3, 4, and 5. The little picture we're seeing is a view from above the street. If you're looking down on a street, for example, and the tiny circle in the middle is the fixture itself, and the kind of ovaloid shape is the shape of the light that's thrown out of the fixture. So you can see the type 2 distribution throws a lot of light left and right, but doesn't put a lot of light behind the pole. It really doesn't put much light in front of the pole. And as you increase in the type numbers, heading into a type 4, that throws a significant quantity of light forward, not as much light backwards, and then still some light left from side to side, but not as much as the type 2. And then going all the way up to a type 5, which throws light in every single direction pretty evenly. So yeah, for the directionality question, it is possible to specify, for example, a type 4 fixture and rotate it away from a house. So there'd be significantly more light in one direction than behind it to a house. So yeah, better light quality and performance. As I was saying, it can accommodate all of these roadway configurations that we see in the community. We have cul-de-sacs where it's tight quarters. We have houses really close to streetlight poles. We wouldn't want to be illuminating somebody's bedroom. But on the other hand, we have wider roads like Avenida Sosiega where we want to get as much light as possible across the street since we don't have poles on the other side. Also, the King K427s are compatible with future technology. So they, inside of the kind of the hat of the fixture, there's a photocell receptacle. Usually this is just it's a standardized twist lock plug, and the photocells that we'll be installing and that we've had in the community today, they're simple, basically brightness sensors that can determine is it daytime or is it nighttime and adjust the light accordingly. I mean, turn the light on and off. And that's pretty standard in the whole industry. However, what's coming out in the future are wireless nodes that can plug into the same plug, and they can either control the brightness of the fixture, meaning dim it. You can control them remotely. There are also options for detecting if the light is out or if something happens to the light, if it falls over. I think some of them have an acceleration sensor in there that they could actually phone home and say, hey, something's wrong. So, yeah.
With that technology, does that have to be determined before they're installed, or can it be done after?
For the King K427s, it can be done after.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a very good point and a very important point, because we may want in the future to upgrade to that technology so that we can change the brightness and reduce our energy consumption that way. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And on the topic of it's the future.
Yeah, so it would not be included with the fixtures that we're getting. However, they are ready to accept that technology as opposed to a fixture that you cannot do anything with.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, we have a contract out now for slope maintenance. And if some of them have to be chopped down, it's going to change your reflective nature off the hillsides possibly and the slopes. So that would need to be adjusted a little bit, which we could do at a later time.
Right, so that you have the option with this fixtured K427, you have that option to do that.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, and
Because
then
we're not sure that many are going to be chopped down. I mean, like, I didn't hear about that yet.
Yeah, me
Neither did Lynn.
yes, and what we're seeing with these this future technology with these nodes, I think it'll happen in 6 to 10 years. Edison will eventually catch up. Right now, the way that the community pays for the lighting is it's a flat rate. They basically, after we'll install these lights, we'll tell them, dear Edison, we installed a 40-watt light here or a 60-watt light here. And they'll say, okay, it's on for half the time, and they'll calculate the energy usage for the year and just bill you monthly for that. It doesn't matter if the light was broken the whole year and didn't work, or if you installed something else there and it used more electricity. There's no metering, it's just a flat rate. With the future technology, I think what we'll start seeing is these little nodes will have meters inside of them, and you'll actually only pay for the energy used by that light. And that could be really useful, for example, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., I don't know how many people are going for walks in the community, but it may make sense to dim all the lights to 40% brightness, and then you could save 60% energy during those hours, and that would actually be reflected in your electric bill. But that's future technology, not the focus of today's pilot. But it is something that the K427 can do.
Can I ask a question that's probably off? Are the lights turned on with sensitivity, or is it like,
No.
is it like the building lights?
It's sensitivity. It's a photosensor.
So there's sensitivity. It's not somebody running around
No.
pushing all these.
That's correct.
Okay,
There's a
that's a
little-
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little window on the side of the fixture where
All right.
light can come in and the sensor knows if it's daytime or nighttime.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So on to the next bullet point here. These fixtures are definitely easier to install. For example, the retrofit kits, my technicians would need to go and open up the fixture, change out the inside components, remove reflectors, remove the bulb adapters and all that, and install the new lighting elements. And the same thing would have to be for maintenance. With the King K427s, it's the entire fixture will be removed. So they'll just loosen up a couple set bolts, remove the whole fixture, put a new one on, connect the wires, and it's done. So much easier for us to install and maintain. It'll be a new fixture housing, so all the fixtures that we saw in those previous slides will be replaced with shiny new fixtures. I'm sure that will be appreciated. And then finally, the K427, it's kind of like the workhorse of this particular niche of lighting. It's used by SCE in these post-top applications, just because it's a really good all-around fixture. It's a good value, it's a decent performance, and it's what they installed here 30 to 40 years ago. It's the exact same, it's just a more modern version of what you have today. So that was the King K427.
Madam Chair, if I may, can we go back, Gary? Because there was a question that was asked before that I'm not sure that we addressed so far with this fixture, is that it was proposed by an unnamed board member to just go out there and plug in a new bulb on a fixture. And I want Gary to talk about the pros and cons to that. Also, I want to point out that these fixtures, because one of the comments that were made, well, you know, if the thing goes out, when we own these things and we don't have an agreement with Siemens, we're going to have to replace the entire fixture instead of replacing a bulb. So it's going to cost us more. So I asked that question of Siemens, and the answer was that you can actually replace components to these things. So if the LED component goes out, you can actually go out there and replace that LED component. Kind of similar to replacing a bulb, not quite the same, but you don't have to go out and purchase an entire fixture. You can actually replace a component. I also want to point out that if you decide to purchase this fixture, the warranty is 7 years. So, and you're currently under contract with Siemens for a 3-year O&M. So for 3 years, parts and labor are included with this. So for 3 years. And then subsequent to that, if you decided to not continue to work with Siemens, the cost of the parts themselves will be covered by the manufacturer, and you just be covering the labor. But right now, 3 years, it's fully covered. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Thank you, Ernesto. And would you like me to address the question about the LED bulbs again? Something we discussed in the first meeting.
I think I made the point.
Okay.
It looks like Steven's got a question bubbling up.
Okay.
So, one of the difficulties I'm having is that in the materials that we have in front of us, give us some general information, and most of the people in the room, I would say, are unfamiliar with the technical aspects of each one of the characteristics. But for example, on page 5, on this King 427, the type 2 versus the 3 versus the 4 versus the 5, and I'm presuming that what was installed in the original pilot was the type 5, because it was a 360-degree distribution back there.
Which page are you on, Steve?
On page 5.
You're on page?
On the one that we're looking at right now on our screen.
Oh, that one, okay.
Right. So the type 5 is 360-degree distribution.
You're
and
correct.
I recall that's what was,
360-degree
right.
distribution. That was not what was installed in.
Oh, what was installed there?
In pilot number 1, the retrofit kits were a type 4 distribution.
No, but the King 427,
King
that was
K427 was a type 3 distribution.
a type 3, okay? And that was which letter in the ABC?
Option B. Is the,
This was option B, okay. So as you can see, I'm having a hard time following, what I'm looking at in terms of from the first pilot to the 4 different bulbs, and there's some information, there are different places and there are things. What I wanted to comment was on the warranties on this fixture and the different configurations, as it were. I could ask you 5 or 6 questions on a technical basis. I don't know. And, for example, the new technology capable with the wireless nodes. That technology is not built into these fixtures as they exist today. It would have to be added later.
Correct. So the fixtures themselves, they have a dimmable driver that you will
Well,
purchase.
without getting into too technicals, the simple answer is, yes, they would have to be retrofitted in the future to add that wireless capability.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
If you wanted to add that
Right,
additional
so just
functionality.
simple questions
Right.
so that they know. And when you say they can control brightness, is that just not to make it too complicated for them, the amount of wattage that the fixture is running at, i.e. you're adjusting it from 40 down to 30
So,
versus color,
so
4K to 3K, two different things.
okay, so right now we're in the shopping phase, and we can purchase fixtures at a particular color temperature. Once you choose that color temperature,
It's fixed.
That's it.
So,
Fixed.
so the answer is you're only changing the overall brightness, not the color.
right. And so with the future technology, also in the shopping phase, you can choose a base different brightness. You can choose a 200 watt
Right.
fixture. You can choose a 40 watt.
But again, without getting too technical for them, you and I can have this conversation probably all day long. But when you say new technology, it will afford certain features and functions in the future, they're very specific as to if they think, oh, you can change the color, you're not going to be able to change the color. You're only going to be able to change the brightness.
Correct.
Okay.
Steve, can I ask you one thing on that? What about the situations though?
Well-
It's not one fit all.
Let me
Okay.
get there. And believe me, I'm not trying to interrupt your presentation.
No,
or
I
cause any issues here.
encourage that we get all these questions out right
Right,
now. So that,
as they come up, because
Yeah.
otherwise it'll be this litany of things.
Right.
There will be an additional cost to purchase the technology for the parts themselves, and then there will be a labor component
Correct.
as well. So, if the fixture now is $1,059 for unit price extended, I guess that's with tax included, or no, it's not. Is that a tax price on the unit price, or is that just the price of the fixture itself?
Even includes that.
Okay, so just because it's an 8% deal, but just
Sure.
so everybody's aware. So you pay $1,060 for the fixture, and then when this technology is available, we don't know what that upgrade cost will be, either in parts or labor. It could be another $300 or $400, just using a number, and if you've got 500 of them, it's going to be $150,000 or whatever it is, at which point you would say, well, gee, if we would have known it was going to be that expensive, hindsight's always 20/20. And in regards to the wireless capability, that would work off of our existing wireless network, which we don't have. So we would have to install a wireless network to be able to use the wireless network capability of this future upgrade?
I know some fixtures have either they all have little SIM cards inside of each node, and they're able to communicate over cell phone networks, which I believe you have throughout the community. And then other ones, I think they either use a proprietary, similar to Wi-Fi, where you have certain base stations inside the community.
Okay,
to
so
communicate. There are a lot
again,
of different options.
just again, saying it has wireless capability, if you don't have, if we had wireless capability in the laundry rooms, we would have card readers on the washing machines. We don't.
We talked that one to death.
No, I know,
You
but
that.
I just want to make sure that
Right.
all of you here.
I think Bill has something to say because he's jumping out of his seat. No? Okay.
And,
But
and,
Madam Chair, I have a comment to make. You're talking about something that you're not getting. You're talking about, all we're saying is that this fixture doesn't lock you in into just having a sensor to turn it on, turn it off. It allows for future options to be added to it. Are you going to add those options? You may or may not. But
Understood.
that's not the subject, so.
Yeah, but on the other side, and it isn't often that Steve and I agree, but he he makes total sense. I mean, you know, so to upgrade it or whatever is gonna cost 5 times as much as the fixture. Why even talk about it? So that's,
It's,
you know.
it's a selling point to a fixture
To
which is
someone-
widely
right.
accepted and utilized in other places. So, you know, they are bringing it to your attention that this capability exists, but you may never use it. And if you're paying for the ability to add it on later, and that's an additional upfront cost over another fixture, in hindsight, you might come back and say, well, had we known, we may have chosen the less expensive fixture given the count. And again, you know, you have to make intelligent purchase decisions. So finally, on the, well, there's two things on the warranty issue. 7-year warranty on, oh, let me back this up. When it's stated that they're repairable, well, you can replace components. You can replace the driver if the driver fails. You can replace the LED disc if that fails. You're not going to go in and replace individual LEDs. You're going to replace the whole disc, for example, right? So again, when they say they can be repaired, we don't know what the extent of the repair will cost, either in labor and/or parts. And yes, it's better always to have something that you can repair than you can't, especially when you're looking at something that's $1,000 a unit, right? It's not like you put a plug in your flat tire in the tread, you don't replace the whole tire necessarily. If you have a puncture in the sidewall of the tire, you have to replace the tire. You can't repair it. So just drawing an analogy. So that warranty, yes, has that benefit on the 7-year. I'd like to make the following remarks about LED bulbs, because I'm hearing some things, and I should say, I have heard some things that I don't think are entirely accurate for a long period of time. I know that screw-in LED bulbs, and there are a million of them, as Ernesto says, there's all kinds of manufacturers and all kinds of things, as there are in any product. Some of those bulbs have warranties of 5 years. Well, these have warranties of 7 years. But they may be half the cost or less. So rather than $1,000 for this, they might be $400 or $500. And again, a warranty is not a point of failure. You have a 36,000-mile warranty on your car, and you drive it for 120,000 miles, and you never had a problem with the transmission. Just, it's not a point of failure measurement. The other thing I wanted to point out is on these LED bulbs, and I'm not necessarily being a proponent of this, again, I want to make sure that everybody understands this. There are LED bulbs that are manufactured in such a way that as you talk about the distribution of the lighting, you can configure the bulb itself. It may have 8 panels that go all the way around like this. You can remove 4 panels so that it only projects this way. Similar to a landscape watering head. You can buy a 45, you can buy a 90, you can buy a 180, you can buy a 270, you can buy a 360. So those, not all, but there are LED bulbs that you can configure the distribution the way you want it in a location, and you don't have to order it that way.
Isn't that what this is pointing at?
Well, you buy that configuration, right? But as you see these configurations, there's a difference in, as you look at type 2, 3, 4, if you look at type 5 is a 360-degree distribution. You would have type 5A at 90 degrees, type 5B at 180 degrees, type C at 270, and type D at 360. So the LED bulbs, some LED bulbs are configurable as to their distribution. Okay? LEDs in general can be adjusted for brightness, right? And so, again, there are a lot of technical aspects here, which is there anything that I've said that you would
Yeah, I mean, on the configurability, I did see, I think one of the residents brought in that LED bulb that you were talking about with the removable panels.
Yep.
I did see that there were panels removable. I'm not a lighting official expert. I have an engineer for that. But my understanding is that if we were to put those into the existing fixtures, I'm not exactly sure what the configuration is of exactly where it screws in, for lack of a better term. So it may not give you the same kind of flexibility as what we'd have, or the same kind of control as what we'd have with a new fixture.
Well, understood, and those are all valid things, but I just want to make sure that you don't disagree with anything that I said, that there are bulbs that are out there, they are configurable, there are things that go on that way. Because I've heard contrary statements to that, and I think it's my responsibility as an advisor to step forward and say, that's not accurate 100% or whatever it is, so that you have this. My question to you would be, on these fixtures, when you select the type, that's it.
Correct.
You can't change the type. That's at the point of manufacturer, it's not adjustable on site.
That's correct.
Okay,
Well,
so,
that's why I'm saying, if you have two different cul-de-sacs, and in one, you want the broadcast to be like this, another one, you want it to be like this, we don't want you buying all of this.
which, again,
Well, that you have the flexibility of doing with this, with a K427. You have 4 different options.
but you have to, but you
But it
have
has
to
to be
know
by the
what you
situation.
want
Yeah.
before you buy it, and then when you install it.
Yeah.
If you're going to have spares, which I would highly recommend you do, particularly given our experience in solar,
Exactly.
right? You don't want to have nothing in inventory and have something go out and there's a warranty or whatever, and the bulb isn't made, the fixture isn't made anymore. That happens. People
Yeah.
discontinue fixtures.
Yeah, Siemens
and-
would do that.
Understood.
For 3
But under
years.
the contract, under 3 years.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is, okay, let's say we have 60 cul-de-sacs, okay? We have, each one of those would have to be looked at to see what kind of direction
You're right.
that you're gonna be purchasing. Okay,
Part of the program that we did here was actually to go out and visit each light. Part of it was to confirm the inventory that Edison was selling you, but also to identify exactly down to, I think, within a 3-foot radius, where is this light? And we can see where the light is in the location of a road. So if it's in a cul-de-sac area, we'll know, is it on a cul-de-sac corner or against a straightaway, and we will specify the correct distribution for each location.
see, I just have a problem with somebody not going out and seeing each location instead of, or rather than
Well,
taking
he just said
satellite
that they
view.
did. They did.
No.
They did. They went out and looked at each location.
No, they looked down by a satellite.
No,
like
no,
that.
they went out there on foot and looked at each location, actually touched the pole, and took the number from the pole and
Oh,
wrote it down on
okay,
a piece
from
of paper.
previous, they said that they were getting their data.
Oh, no, no,
from
no, 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 no.
Looking
They-
down.
No,
I'm
no,
saying
they,
now that
they've
we
already done
have
that.
that data, we
Right.
can see this.
So,
Okay,
Someone really did visit this pole. They took a photo of the broken ones. They recorded the aluminum pole number 2.
again, the amount of information that we've been provided with today, none of it really in advance, right? There's a plethora of other data, and like what you just said, you were under a misimpression that there is a physical inventory in a database with all this information. We didn't know about it.
That's correct. You want to design the program yourself, or you
no,
want
no,
your
no, no,
consultant
no.
to design it for you?
No.
That's it. No, that's a very important question. You know.
We don't want to design it ourselves.
Okay. So I just want to get clarification
No,
on
it's-
that, because we can hand you all the data, and
I'm
you
not-
can tell us exactly what to install.
Ernesto, believe me, I'm not trying to get into the weeds on this. Trust me, okay? All I'm saying is that we don't know what the basis and the foundation of all of the limited, we're getting this top stuff. We didn't know that the satellite thing turned into a physical inventory, which is in a database, and decisions can be made and will be made according to that, number one. Number two, and this is, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself a little bit here, but I hope everyone will just bear with me, is that we, the village, GRF, whomever, spent a good deal of money acquiring the Arbor Pro software. We know the type, species, and location of every tree here. We have the database on the fixtures, or the poles, we have the database on the trees. We're going to merge those together before we install lights and say, we got the best solution, or we knew what the tree trimming was going to be and what additional cost that might be by installing these fixtures, because once you spend the money, I don't care whatever the amount of money is, 400, 500, 800, whatever the number is, and then it's like, oh, well, now we have to spend $100,000 trimming trees or whatever it is. Again, I'm being proactive based on conditions and events that have happened in solar in this community over the last couple of years. So as an advisor, I'm just trying to make sure that you guys understand to the best that you can. When you look at something and some of these things are said, they're upgradable, they're wireless. We don't have wireless. They're upgradable. What's the cost?
Right,
Would you
okay.
decide to do it?
All
So
right. So, but in any case, please remember that our solar project was not like the other board's solar project.
I don't want to
And we
get
don't even want to
into
go
a-
down that street because Bill managed our solar project along with staff, and it was perfect. So, well, not totally perfect, but perfect and close enough. So yes, Bill, if you have a question, you don't yell from this, please don't yell, please come up. I have to maintain decorum in here.
My voice carries pretty well.
All right, so does mine, but
The other question I have is, are these fixtures American-made or are they made overseas?
The King fixtures are assembled in the United States.
Okay.
I'm sure that everyone is getting their LED components from overseas.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know about the alternate four, but we can get that
Okay.
information.
I guarantee you it's a combination,
Okay.
you know, of
That's-
where, you know,
What I was going to ask is, if I'd have bought these lights, these dollar numbers on here, if I'd have purchased these lights a year ago, before the tariffs came in, would they have been cheaper than they are now? Okay, thank you.
don't get into your Make America Great Again thing. No, I'm
Hi.
joking.
Thank you, Gary.
That's
Go
saying
ahead.
that to the wrong person. Okay, so Ernesto, we don't want you to feel, because you know that we're totally against it, that we're interfering with this project, because we're not. But we just know that we want to do the very best thing for our community, because this is something, you know, that's really different for us. But in any case, are we almost done?
With the presentation?
Yeah.
We're just getting to the good part.
Okay.
So far we've talked about what happened in pilot number 1. Now let's talk about we're back. So takeaways from the first meeting. We kind of already discussed all of this, but basically there were many concerns and a lot of feedback that we received. And with all of that, we kind of narrowed it down to 2 actions that we want to do. We want to look at what is the best light quality. I know that that's a priority for the community. There are only so many streetlight poles out there. What is the best that we can actually do with the existing system? Which lights can we really get out there to have the most illumination possible? And that led into talks about directional light up, which we've been talking about today, distribution types, reducing glare. And then also, one major piece of feedback that we got was that we only tested the lights on Avenida Sosiega. How can that apply to the cul-de-sacs? So we heard you, and as Ernesto was detailing earlier, this pilot program number 2 will test the fixtures in many different locations, including cul-de-sacs, intersections, and so on. And then finally, at different color temperatures. That was one of the things we wanted to discuss. So for every light we're installing, we should have a 3,000 and a 4,000 Kelvin option. So on to this colorful chart here. This is the direction that I received from staff was that the King K427 fixture was the one that the community liked, and that Siemens should find 4 alternate fixtures that are similar in style. There are decorative post-up fixtures out there that look way more industrial or decorative. As Ernesto said, there are very, very many options here. But we chose these 4. They have a relatively similar look to what you have in the community today. And then they have different characteristics. So across the top, you see the 5 different options we're looking at. All the way on the left side is the King K427, which is already definitely something we're considering in pilot number 2. And then the 4 fixtures on the right side, one of those 4 will go head-to-head against the King K427 in this pilot program number 2. And along the left side, going down, we have all the different kind of things that we evaluated. So cost is pretty self-explanatory. Looking at the number of wattage options, that's, like I said earlier, when you purchase these fixtures, there are base wattages that you can get, for example, 40-watt fixtures or 60-watt fixtures and so on. The number of wattage options available is definitely something that's desirable, so we can have brighter fixtures on intersections, for example, and dimmer fixtures in cul-de-sac areas. Distribution options, kind of the same thing. We have those type 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are some more exotic types, like type 5 square. I won't bore you with the details, but in general, the higher distribution options is better. So that lets us be more creative in how we specify which kind of angle of distribution we want for cul-de-sacs or for intersections and so on. Photometric performance, I'll talk about that in the future slides, but we just give it a good, better, best analysis. So in this one, there isn't too many numbers there, but we'll get to those in a second. Energy savings, these are pretty much across the board, all about the same. LPW range is lumens per watt, which is it's a technical kind of measurement of how efficient light is, or the fixture is at creating electricity into light. In general, higher numbers are better. Won't bore you with the details of that one. And then 3000K, 4000K, so are they available? Almost all of them are available in both colors. And then the warranty that we discussed, the standard warranty on the King K427 is 7 years, and for an additional cost, it can be a 10-year warranty.
So Gary, if I may interject, real quick, John, go ahead. You want John to go ahead before I?
Is it important to have more than 4 distribution options?
We think 4 distribution options will be more than enough for the community.
So, yeah, so it's the difference, John, between your, top of the line Honda versus a Tesla top of the line? What exactly do you want? What is the need for the community and how much money are we willing to spend? That's basically it.
Need is my
So
question.
I think that one of the things that I wanted to address though is that one of the comments that we heard at the meeting, at the last meeting that we had, is that we wanted to provide the best possible lighting option for the community in terms of photometrics, in terms of performance, in terms of, throwing that light out there. So that's the Hubble. That's what the Hubble does that for you. It's a much more expensive fixture. It's a $1,500 fixture versus a $986 fixture that is the King K427. So there's certain things that are, that are really the same. In fact, if you look at side-by-side comparison, the K427 on the preliminary cost is better. The wattage is the same as the more expensive fixture. The distribution options are higher on the more expensive fixtures, but I mean, how much flexibility do you want there? You want to pay for that. That's the real question. Do you want to pay for that? The photometric performance, the more expensive fixture is better than the K427. Again, it's how much we want to pay for it. That boils down to energy savings. They're the same across. The LPW range, it's slightly better on the more expensive fixture. The availability on the different heats, they're the same for both fixtures, and the warranty is even better on the K427. So again, I'm just bringing that up, not to convince you to do anything specific, but just to point that out so that you can see what the best value for the community is. Is the best value your reliable Toyota, or is the best value to get a Model S Tesla? So
Does better photometric performance mean that you get greater light spread?
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next few slides.
Okay.
I have 2 quick questions, if I may. What's the pole count that these fixtures would go on once we select it?
So it was,
Because we have 800, how many poles do we have? 8?
right, we would be purchasing 716 of the post-up motion fixtures.
716, and the total count on all the street lights is
around 760.
759 poles.
759 poles, so this is the vast majority of them
Yes.
at 716.
That's
And
correct.
the other question that I had for you, because as you said, the LPW is kind of a complicated thing, but in general terms, would I be correct in saying that it's a measure of efficiency of the fixture?
You would be correct.
Right, so for example, as Ernesto says, the Hubble beacon slide, that first one at 1550, has a slightly better LPW as an efficiency rating, right, from 83/103 to 93/115, call it 10%. But when you go over to the Hubble, it's almost a 20% improvement at a less price. To the Hubble Kim Oru, how do you say that?
I'm not
I
sure.
don't
I've
even
been
know.
calling it the
The
Oro.
OURO. So if you look at that third selection, the second Hubble, it's $300 less. It has more distribution options. The photometric performance is not as good as the Hubble. The energy savings are good, but the LPW range, which is an efficiency rating, is 20% better. So again, and we're not going to make these decisions now, but as Steve says, you know, and I'm kind of thinking along the same line, we pick one of these, we're doing it kind of like at random based on the information that's presented to us, as opposed to seeing 2 or 3 of these fixtures implemented each one and being able to say yes, which brings me back to the last page with the number 1, 2, 3, 4. Really what we're only talking about, again, if I'm correct, is 1, 2, and 3 are just reinstalling the lights we've already seen. And number 4 is what we're testing. Is that basically correct? Because one is the Cobra heads and,
We'll talk about the scope of exactly what we're doing in pilot number 2 towards the end of the presentation.
okay,
So we'll get to that. But no, all 4 locations that you're talking about,
right.
Locations 2, 3, and 4 will feature the new light that we choose from one of these 4 on the right side of the page.
But
Okay,
Okay.
but, I'm sorry. You're still hearing a problem in here with the one.
Yeah.
You're here, I mean, it's not only myself, and I certainly am not a lighting expert. So let's not keep talking about 4 or whatever we're saying. The thing is we're still having a problem with that. So in your mind, as you are skilled at this, you should be coming up with, well, okay, maybe you want to see 2, and whatever the cost is. But I mean, we're saying it over and over and over and over again. Each one of us is saying, and you're still going back to
Well,
what we don't want to hear.
if I may, you may choose to select 2 of these fixtures, or you
I
may,
know,
you
but
may choose to
what I'm
select all
saying
4.
is that's our choice, but he keeps going back to his original thing. So basically, I'm saying, get off of that soapbox and jump on another one.
And it's not really his fault, it's because
No,
we,
it's not a fault.
no, but we as staff,
Right,
we
it's
kind of
not a-
directed
it's
them
not
to
a
do
fault.
that.
Yeah, but the thing is he's I don't know if he's the representative of the company, so I'm sure he uses situational, this is the situation. You have a bunch of people who keep saying this, so grab that, I want you to try to grab that situation. Otherwise, otherwise we'll wind up agreeing to something, we'll be unhappy with it, we'll be
You know, one thing,
complaining about it.
one thing I
Say a bad
have
word.
to what everybody's saying here, okay, you're recommending K427 for 716 poles. Okay, it may be that we want 200 of those. Of the Hubble, we need 17, and the next one over, the Oro, we may need 16.
That's what we're trying to get to here.
Right.
Once they
Yeah, but
install
we
the.
can't determine that. That has to be on-site scoping
Right,
it out.
so that's what we propose to do. We're proposed to take the fixture that you select today and add it to the King, so that you can see how that work on different situations. Now, if you want to commission additional pilots, you can always do that.
No. Okay, what you're saying is, though, we would take the King and basically put it against the Hubble in certain cases.
Or whatever you select.
No, that doesn't make sense, because we don't know what's needed in an area.
You will never know until you put it up there and you go look at it.
Yeah, I know, but it could be we need a King K582 instead of a Hubble.
That's why you were gonna put them side by side, so you can make that
But you aren't going to
decision.
put all four of them beside a king.
That is correct, because each one that you select, it'll cost you money. So,
That's not the point. The point is seeing what's right for a given situation.
then the scope needs to be changed. We can direct Siemens to install a pilot out there that includes all four options here,
Okay.
including the king option. Maybe I'm missing a point,
Yeah,
Steve.
yeah. We're trying to get to the best situation, best solution for a given situation, a given location, okay? It may be that we need the Cree Edge against the king. Another place we need a Hubble against the king. Another place we need two kings against each other, okay? We can't just say one or two fits everything. It just doesn't work that way. And I take you back to the intersection at Algarrobo and Bahia Blanca West. That sucker needs a 10,000 watt, okay? You just flat can't see the street,
Right.
okay? So why would we want to put a king against a Hubble? It doesn't work.
So,
I'm just throwing it out. So,
Yeah, this
go
is
ahead.
let me point something out. This is a very subjective process, okay? That's why we didn't ask Siemens, propose something, and let's go install it all over the place. Because you want to select based on pilots. And I can go out there, and you can go out there, and we'ul never agree.
Okay, but.
We can agree on
Siemens-
technical,
Okay.
but we can not agree. on-
Hypothetically, at cul-de-sac X, okay, they've been out there. Can they say, okay, what you're really looking for is a comparison of King 427 against a Hubble Oro? And that would work there, and you'd have to take a choice. In another place, it might be a Hubble against the King, and like this. Because it's all situational.
Right, so that's a very good point, Steve. So you can provide Siemens the flexibility to tell you which one of this additional four fixtures to put out there. What they're telling you is that in terms of performance, they feel that the Hubble fixture fits the bill. But
In every case.
yeah, but we can direct them to take a look at these four fixtures and make a call themselves as to what the best fit is for that cul-de-sac and compare that additional fixture against the king fixture.
Yeah.
So we can provide them that flexibility, if that's the direction. We didn't want to provide them that flexibility. We asked them, give us what Siemens feel is the best fixture to compare the king with at a cul-de-sac situation.
Okay, but they have the data where they could say, okay, in this particular situation, you need an Oro. In this one over here, you need a 427. In this one over here, you may need a King 582. You have the data to tell us that, right?
Can you talk about
Yeah,
that, Gary?
so I guess to address your comments, the Hubble Beacon Slide, it has all these different wattage options and distribution options. So when we're talking about the Hubble Beacon Slide, we're talking about a family of actual fixtures that could be installed at a location. And yes, we wouldn't install the same fixture on an intersection as we would on a cul-de-sac area. So it would still be a Hubble Beacon Slide. They'd all look like that little icon you can see up there. And it would all be from the same manufacturer, which is the pricing that you're looking at. I don't recommend picking and choosing just because it will look different. The volume discount that we would get would change. But we're not asking you to, first of all, we're not asking you to choose a fixture for the whole program right now. This is just to talk about one part of pilot number 2. And second of all, once we get the decision on which fixture we're going to install, it's really just a family of Hubble Beacon Slide. And then afterwards, for pilot 2, as well as for the remainder of the program, once we decide what we want to install, my engineer will go through point by point and determine for this cul-de-sac X, we do need the Hubble Beacon Slide, but we need a 40 watt and we need a type 2 distribution, and it needs to be pointed in this direction.
Okay, so one other quick point. Are you saying that we could just take the Hubble Beacon Slide shell and put up there? And then if we needed an Oro, if we needed a 427, that would just go into it?
So the shell or the actual metal components that you're
Yes.
looking at, those
The housing.
the housing, that's what you're really deciding on right now, and then the types of innards that the housings can accept is what we're looking at and comparing here.
Oh, good, okay,
So
okay.
hopefully this is very constructive. The presentation started off with where we were, how we got to where we are, what's going to be proposed for the pilots. We'll choose a fixture for this. I think it would be very helpful if we go to the very last page, page 15, and let's understand what the pilot scope of work is, right? So, and feel free to correct me if I'm,
All right, are we rushing him there?
no,
Do you-
no,
No.
because here,
No, I understand what you're saying, but the thing is we're
No.
not up to page 15.
No, I understand, but
And
I
so
thi-
we're saying, we want to be sure we don't say to him, let's blow off pages
Try-
11,
no,
12,
no, I'm
or-
not saying blow anything off.
'Cause that's not
Here-
nice.
Here's what hopefully you'll get out of this, because I just got it. It just went off in my head, because I'm looking at this and we're listening to presentations and technical data. Whatever this scope is, we're gonna do another pilot for $20,000 plus or minus, based on the selection of one of the candidates. In reality, let's look at each one of the 4 locations, so we understand what it is. And correct me if I'm wrong. Location number 1, you're going to compare 3,000 Kelvin versus 4,000 Kelvin using the GE or the Acuity Cobra head, right?
All locations will do that.
Well, but I just got it. This is being saved for the final part of it, which if we understand what the scope is, we'll have a better
Yeah,
understanding
well, no, I
on.
did mention at the beginning of the meeting, every single location will compare 2 different Kelvins for you. So the same fixture, 2 different Kelvins.
Well, not the same fixture. One's the GE Cobra head, the other's an Acuity Cobra head?
We would get 4 total fixtures.
Right. So number 2 is the same thing, comparing the 3 to 4K color, the King versus the Hubble. But there are multiple Hubbles. So which Hubble,
Correct.
right?
So with
Number-
permission of the board, we can skip to
Well,
page
no,
number
no,
15.
I just want to have this as an overview, so as we go forward, everybody in their mind knows.
I think that'll be answered in the presentation, if we can get them to allow him to finish the presentation, and then maybe get questions at the end.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to make sure that all the questions that he's going to cover through the presentation are not. So go ahead, Gary.
Okay, so we're still here on page 7, and kind of coming back to where we were at this point in the presentation, Siemens was asked by staff to come up with 4 alternates on the post-op fixtures that we could install. And I introduced the different 4 different options that we looked at, or the 4 different families of fixtures, if you will, as well as the individual criteria against which or the individual criteria that we evaluated. And photometric performance, I kind of leaned over that because there was just good, better, and best. But that was definitely one of the main topics that we got feedback about from pilot number 1, that the quality of the light is the most important thing to the community. So we went in and we did some computer simulations of all 5 of these fixtures on a location on Calle Carmenita, one of the roads here. And we came up with these values. Again, more math, but a quick kind of crash course in photometrics. What we're looking at is 3 different measurements that you could take about these kinds of fixtures acting together on a road. It's not always just about one fixture, it's how does the whole road look, because that's, you don't just look at one light. So average luminance is the overall average brightness. Under the lights or right next to the pole, it's clearly going to be a lot brighter than farther away from the pole. So average luminance just takes the overall foot candles that you'd see on the road. In this case, bigger is better, and the Hubble Beacon Slide was the winner of that category, if you will. It was able to provide the most brightness overall on the road, given the pole configuration that we have.
And flexibility, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So luminance does not look at flexibility, but this would be, would fixtures appropriate for that road?
Yeah.
So on Calle Carmenita, I think it's a cul-de-sac road, so we would specify something appropriate. We wouldn't want to throw light at the houses behind the fixtures. We would want to get it just on the road. That's the purpose of the streetlights. Uniformity, this just looks at kind of how do the fixtures, what is the average brightness, the darkest brightness, and it measures how uniformly is the road lit. So you don't want to have a lot of light under the pole and then darkness in between poles and then back to a lot of light. It's difficult on the eyes and kind of makes it less pleasant to drive through and also not as visible. So in this case, lower is better. The King K582 won that category. And then finally, I think this one's really important for the community since we don't have the opportunity to move or add poles. It's currently not something being considered. The pole spacing tolerance is basically looking at the darkest point, which is halfway between two poles. You have light, so it's really bright under the poles. It gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and then at some point right between the two poles, it's the dimmest area. And the recommended practice 8 from the Illuminating Engineering Society specifies a minimum number of foot candles that you'd like to have on the road at all times. So this pole spacing tolerance, what the program did was it just started with two poles and kept moving them farther and farther apart from each other until that darkest point between them hit the minimum recommended lighting. So what this means is that with a Hubble beacon slide, you can have poles 151 feet apart, in theory. This is, again, in a computer, but in theory, you can have them 151 feet apart and still have, in that darkest area, the minimum amount of lighting required, recommended for RP8. Whereas the King K427, for example, the poles would need to be significantly closer together to achieve that same brightness level between the poles. So from this, we're able to recommend the Hubble beacon slide as the Cadillac of photometric performance, to keep the car analogies coming. This is, I know that it was some feedback that we got from pilot number 1 to talk about, we really want the best quality light, and we are giving it to you. The Hubble beacon slide is our recommendation for the best light performance fixture. So kind of what we were alluding at through the presentation, King K427 is the best value. It's the overall kind of the Camry of the world. It's a decent car, it's a decent light, it can do what you need it to do, and overall it's pretty good. But if you want to have the best lighting performance possible, then we'd recommend the Hubble beacon slide. So on to some more details about the Hubble beacon slide. This is a closer picture of what it looks like. Like I said, with the math that we just looked through, it has the best photometric performance. It's got a high number of these distribution types, so 2, 3, 4, and 5. It even has some more exotic ones if we felt the need to specify them. And these will be able to accommodate all the roadway configurations we have in the community. It is available in both 3000K and 4000K, so we'll be able to test both of those and get feedback from the community about which color is preferred. It's compatible with the current poles, so we wouldn't have to make any major changes to the poles. And then finally, Hubble is one of the largest manufacturers of these types of fixtures, post-op fixtures around. So when we purchase if we were to purchase this fixture, we would be pretty certain that within the next 7 to 10 to 20 years, this company would still be around for any kind of maintenance things, any warranty claims that we need to make. They're likely not going to disappear. So that's kind of our overall recommendation for the light for pilot number 2.
Quick question.
So if I may, that kind of concludes the additional fixture selection type of the presentation. So now we're going to get into the details of the pilot, and we're going to address a lot of the questions that have been asked
Okay,
about.
but my question is right here. This one where you're recommending the Hubble beacon slide and its comparison of LED post-top luminaries, that's only applicable to right on top of the pole, right? The mushroom head type thing. For Cobra head, it's going to be something totally different, probably the 427.
So for the Cobra heads existing in the community, we would likely replace those with Cobra heads. That's been the current spirit of the program so far. So when we're talking about the Hubble beacon slide, if you were to choose that for the entire retrofit program, we would only change out the existing post-up fixtures with the Hubble beacon slide. The fixtures that are currently on mast arms, the Cobra heads that you have, we would replace those with Cobra heads.
Oh, okay, okay.
And not wanting to be like a numbnut, and why? Why is that?
The Cobra heads that are currently in the community, I mean, they're on the gatehouse areas, which are
Right.
obviously there for a reason. There are some Cobra heads in the community that are there for a reason that I couldn't figure out or my engineer couldn't figure out. We can't be sure why they were put there, but we have the mast arm there. It was deemed that a Cobra head should go there, so we'd replace it basically with one of an equivalent type. It's a really small quantity of fixtures, so we didn't throw as much resources and energy as we had.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The other part of that answer is that we wanted to limit the cost. We didn't
Okay,
want to
yeah.
modify your poles.
So that's why I
We
asked
wanna-
why.
Yes.
Alrighty. So then let's talk about pilot number 2. So this is, I guess, again, to recap everything. The overall goal of the whole streetlight program is to improve the lighting in the community, replace the streetlights, modernize the whole system, etc. And to do that, we need to decide what kind of fixtures we want to install. Yes, there's the parallel Cobra heads discussion, and we'll get to that in a second. But the vast majority of fixtures or poles in the community are post-hub fixtures. So we need to eventually, ultimately decide on one family of fixtures that we would like to install. And then from there, if we were to choose the King K427 or the Hubble Beacon Slide, we would go through and specify for each location the appropriate distribution, wattage, et cetera, for that pole. To get to that, we have designed pilot number 2 for you, and that should address all of the concerns that we received in pilot number 1, as well as all the questions that we've received so far about color temperatures, different locations. And now I think, Ernesto, you want to help me present pilot number 2? Sure.
So pilot number 2, which is actually 4 pilots, will address all of the concerns that were brought up at the last meeting, and including the pole heights, which wasn't mentioned, the location, the heat, and the type of fixture.
And the width of the street.
And the width of the street. So it's a very complicated pilot, if you think about it, because we're trying to hit on just about every alternative possible to address the questions that were brought up. So as you go through, then go ahead and go to your next slide.
Sure.
I will describe and, okay. So we're going to talk about the first pilot location. So I want to show you that location. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this is the first pilot location that we're going to be looking at. And this addresses a 30-foot high pole. It addresses a thorough street, a wide street, and it addresses existing Cobras. So this is the location where the first pilot will be installed. And those the pins show you where those are at. I'll mess with that. Let's see. Okay.
And none of
So-
these are close to a gate? We're away from the gates, like the
Not
first
not
pilot?
this one, but we do have one that is. So this one doesn't. So I'll let you go. Gary, go ahead and talk about the slide that you had.
Sure. So yeah, location number 1, the overall application that we're testing are these Cobra head fixtures on the main entranceways into the community. They're mounted on single poles in the median that have 2 Cobra heads, one on each side. We're going to install a total of 8 fixtures on 4 poles. So the first pole, as you're driving in, will be a GE 3000 Kelvin fixture on both heads on that pole. The second pole, as you drive in, will be an Acuity 3000 Kelvin fixture. The next one will be a GE 4000 Kelvin fixture, and the last one will be an Acuity 3000 Kelvin fixture. So you've got all these different combinations. You will be able to see both GE and Acuity and both 3000 and 4000 Kelvin on each one of them.
So a lot of variables
Yeah,
being addressed
that's
there.
good.
2 different type of fixtures and 2 different types of heat. So
Is the glare when it came to the 810 on the first pilot
Exactly.
was pretty strong, but that was like an 18-foot pole. These 30-foot poles are going to have a different, it's not going to be as glaring
Height.
if they're higher, right?
Yeah, I think that the 30-foot poles are more appropriate for Cobra heads.
okay, so you want to go on to the next group?
Sure. So location number 2, this is on Calle Carmenita, I believe, and this is the cul-de-sac post-stop fixtures. So this is probably one of the most popular ones that we'll be installing. This one is to test the location. So this is a cul-de-sac area. It's a much narrower road than we've tested on previously. And in this one, we'll be looking at the King K427, both a 3,000 Kelvin one and a 4,000 Kelvin one, as well as, for example, the Hubble or whatever fixture we end up choosing from the options there. We would test the 3,000 Kelvin version and a 4,000 Kelvin version of that for a total of 4 fixtures installed.
And this is a Calle Carbonita. So what we have there is mushroom-type fixtures, so they're going to be replaced with a mushroom-type fixture. And we're going to be using the King K427 fixture, which was already installed, and the Hubble. If you choose the Hubble, we'll use the Hubble to pair it up against the King fixture. In addition to that, the King fixture as well as the Hubble will have a 3,000 and a 4,000 heat on the lamps.
I think that, when I find out, I actually make that station because it's dark at night. I walk that street because I walk over to my neighbors. I walk all the way along that. And there's a lot of trees along there. And you have this slope here. You can't quite see it. It is a slope. So it gets pretty dark in there. It's kind of like walking down a canyon at night. And I think it would be a really good, it should be. The people here, if you look at that, it's a wonderful shot. I don't think people on this side here, their bedrooms do not face out onto the cul-de-sac. So I don't think you're going to have a real issue there. I don't think I would do any directional until they complain. These people up the hill may have a complaint, but they're far enough up the hill that I don't think it's going to be.
It's going to be below that.
It's going to be below that. So in this way, they're going to get a double benefit with the complete 360 or whatever you're going to do. I don't know what you're doing.
For that location, probably a
Well,
type 2 or type 3.
it's going to light up a lot more of their front yard. I'll call it the front yard.
Exactly. And the configuration that we set, once you select that fixture, the configuration that we set at that particular location, we're going to leave out to the experts to tell us, the waters, the configuration, the spread, all of that, because we're not light experts.
Right. For that location, and I'm not the engineer that will be specifying this, but for that location, we'll probably specify a type 2 or a type 3. In general, the purpose of the lighting is to illuminate the right-of-way in municipalities here, just for illuminating the road. I would probably not install a type 5 there, just to avoid illuminating someone's house. I don't know, it depends. Everyone kind of has their preference. Some people like the lighting, some people don't.
Right. And Gary is referring to the spread types that we showed before. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So where are we now? Still presenting or?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going through the pilot. So the group number 3, these are going to be installed in Via Carrizo, and the idea is this is a situation where we have a through street. The pole height is 16 feet. The street width is 36 feet. So the fixture here will be the fixture that you select, and that's essentially the configuration there. And there's two fixtures being proposed, one with each different heat.
Correct.
So we go to 4 now. The group 4 is to address the concern about intersections, the different condition at intersections. And this will be installing 4 different fixtures. It will be, one of them will be the General Electric fixture, the other one will be the Acuity fixture, and those are both overhead fixtures, so 2 different fixtures. And they will be at 3,000, and then we'll install the Hubble, and at 3,000 and 4,000 as well. So a total of 4 different fixtures there. So this is one of the intersections right here. Let's see. Right, I'm sorry?
4B, just click on 4B here.
Oh, on 4B, yeah.
So, all right.
This is the other intersection right here. This is the other intersection.
What's the main road there?
This is Carrizo, I believe. Yeah. And
Paseo del Lago.
and Paseo del Lago, thank you. And then, that's right there, right here. And then this is the other intersection that we're gonna test out.
Okay.
So you can resume your presentation.
Sure. Yeah. So for location number 4, that one would be looking at the intersections. What could serve better for the intersections? Would it be Cobra head technology or the post top technology? And again, in 3000K and 4000K. So that is the overall scope of pilot number 2. I think hopefully we've gotten through as many questions as possible, but we will open it up to more questions and hopefully good answers. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Okay, so, and thank you. And we're sorry that that's just how we are.
No worries.
So I had to be sorry. So, and this was a much more ruly meeting than the last one when Guy was left on his own.
Poor guy.
No, it wasn't. So, do we have to agree on anything now?
So, Madam Chair, so it's 2 things that we need to do, 2 action points today. One is direct staff to direct Siemens to move forward with the pilot installation so that you can get all of these options addressed and you can have the community go out there, take a look at the characteristic of each one of these fixtures at the actual place. But before you do that, we would like you to select one of the 4 fixtures that are presented here as an additional fixture to be added to the mix, or to direct Siemens to have the flexibility to add, to have them pick the fixture that they want to add, or you can direct us to install all 4 of the fixtures, which I don't recommend, because we want to,
Now that you said it and you were laughing.
yeah, we want to control the price. So we're,
So, Bill, what do you say?
Want me to come up here?
Sure.
I like this slide.
You know, I'm not really that great of an expert. I'm learning too, like everybody else here. But the point is, the scope that you've got now, I think you're going to see, I think it's going to give you a lot of answers about these fixtures. I don't know how many of you walk around the community, but I've got a cul-de-sac that's a very short cul-de-sac, and there's one cul-de-sac light. I'm not sure that a Hubble would light the place up. I mean, I want to see that. So you may want to use a King in a lot of these, but I think for like Carmenita, I think seeing the Hubble is going to be an eye-opener.
I do too.
And I also it'll be interesting to see the Hubble on Carrizo there, where you've got, it'll be very good to see that. And then the Cobra heads, I often thought, the same comment, I often thought, why are these Cobra heads out here in the middle of nowhere, running around Bahia Blanca East and Bahia Blanca West? Not to say that I wouldn't like to see Cobra heads on all of those on the major thoroughfares, but I'd like to see what the Hubble does for lighting up the street. If it's got 151-foot distribution, I don't know what the GEs have, the Cobra heads, because I didn't see it in here. Maybe somebody else saw it, but so the way it looks to me right now is it's going to give you some idea about some diversity in your lighting. So that, but again, I say, I am certainly not an expert on this, but I would really love to go see it because I know these walkways, and I think it's going to. The other thing, it's going to get a lot of exposure because a lot of people travel down those streets, and at night, a lot of walkers walk with flashlights and headlamps, walking down those streets.
So are you happy with the thought that we go along with the one fixture, the one additional fixture, Staycom or Nesto, that they're recommending, or would you want to do something else?
You might want to down the road. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that because I think
Well,
you can get it really complicated.
and
And all
ask
of a
for
sudden, I'm
100.
looking at 4 different fixtures, and I'm going like,
Right.
right now, what you're really asking me to do when I walk down there is to look at the King and the Hubble. They're going to be they're gonna be compared. I'm gonna look at that. I don't know what the Cree's gonna do. You know, I have no idea, or what the other king, you know, I don't. But, you know, if you were gonna do that, I have another place you could do it, but I think it would complicate it. I think, at this point,
Yeah.
you know, that's just my opinion. You know, I'm not that good at
I think so too.
So,
judging.
all right, I just wanted, I mean, I know you're not an expert, but we value your opinion, so I just wanted your opinion.
After this, you may not.
One question.
Okay,
But yeah, that's just, you know, having walked those streets, I think that you're going to see whether the mushroom type is going to suffice, or whether you're going to need cobras, or just a combination thereof. You know, like you say, you've got that dark spot in Algarobo.
Oh, man.
You know, you're going to.
That may take some special engineering.
Yeah, you may have to have something special there.
okay, yes, Steve? This Steve, not that one, stay calm.
Correct me
No.
if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that a cobra head is better than a mushroom because it gives better dispersion. Is that necessarily so with current engineering?
So cobra heads are typically used on higher poles, and there's significantly much more of them out there. They're much better engineered. However, on lower poles like this, I wouldn't necessarily say that a cobra head would provide better light quality. It would
So is
also,
this a false assumption universally?
I mean, I guess even taking a step back, we did investigate actually installing cobra heads on all of the poles in the community. Currently, with the poles that you have, unfortunately, we did an analysis and we looked at a whole street of them. They have bolts on the top of the poles where the mast arm actually connects to, and almost all the bolts that we saw were snipped off to a point where we can't actually safely mount a mast arm onto the poles we have in the community. But
Okay,
we can install
Yeah,
those.
if I may add real quick, what I can say with certainty is that cobra heads are not gonna be something that's gonna fit everywhere,
Okay.
you know?
Okay, so each board member has, I see you, John. Each board member has an opportunity to speak, and then we just have to end this. So, yes, John,
I don't
and
see,
hopefully about lighting.
I don't see a comparison of the cobra head versus a king in any of these choices. Is that?
Or not. Two different things.
Well, on the map, it shows you.
Right, but remember, they're two different styles. So the criteria has been that where we have cobra heads, we'll add cobra heads. Where we have mushroom types, we'll add mushroom types.
So the fact that we're not comparing the king and the cobra head is not important.
That's correct.
Any questions? Steve,
That's a future thing.
do you have any questions? Or-
No. Oh, first to make a pick?
Yeah.
Well, no. We're not done, because we have, Lynn has a right to speak, as does our advisor. So Lynn, you have anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to say I'm anxious to go see these pilots, but it's just a little sad this morning because the last time we had pilots over on Sosiega, I rode around with Jack and,
Kush, wasn't?
no, I was with Jack and Bob. And so that's why it's a little sad. But anyway, I'm anxious to see this pilot.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Steve, this is your last chance.
All right, so on page 7, which is the vertical listing of all the different things, by my calculations, if we're using 716 poles at these dollar values, what you're looking at is that the King 427 is a cost of $706,000. Okay? The Hubble Beacon Slide is $1,000,011, which is a 57% increase. Just the Oro is $895,000. The Cree is $823. And the King K582, the last one, is $1,115,000. So you've already got a contract, you had a budget, depending on what you pick, supplemental appropriation, whatever, just bringing that up, because we haven't talked about the overall cost, the additional cost that may be incurred based on the selection, right? As to the pilot, one of my concerns would be in location number 2, for example, you're using 2 different manufacturer products, and you're going to put 3K on one of them and 4K on the other. So it's kind of like apples and oranges, right? The dispersion characteristics, you'll see the difference between, but, and having gone through this in the carport installation many years ago, just to me, from a purist standpoint, I'd like to see one thing in one location and another thing in another location, rather than having 2 different fixtures and 2 different kelvins in the same row. But that's,
But how would we compare them then if it was in 2 different locations?
well, we went through this with the carport lighting, because one of the problems that we had, and it was in third, as a matter of fact, is when we used the different color bulbs, and you could see, you were standing down a row and you were looking at carports over here and over there, and you turned around and you looked over here and over here, you were looking at 2 different wattages and 2 different colors, and it was very difficult to be able to determine what you thought was the best choice, because there's so much going around around you. So just,
If I may just comment on Steve's comment, remember, these poles are about 200 feet apart. So, you
Okay,
know,
well,
you should
again, I don't
be able to see the difference
I don't have a
easily.
spacing map, so I can only,
Yeah,
Oh,
most-
okay,
yeah.
I want, I just don't want us to walk out of here and say, we're not getting what we want, which is what sort of happened last time. And we're gonna do this whole pilot, and then we're gonna say, oh, it wasn't enough, let's just do like another one. We don't want to do this. So we want to be confident, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us who are here with our advisors and our adopted advisor, to say, okay, we really listened a lot, we paid attention, we worked with our expert staff, and we're going to, this is where we want to go, and we're going to look at the pilot, and we're going to make decisions from there. So are we there? Hello, board members, are we there?
what about the money?
I agree on the concept, the whole thing, and why we're choosing the Hubble. Because we don't have to use the Hubble in every area. We could intermix it with the King because of the similar design, So I like that idea. Although I like the price better on.
I'm not even
On
looking
Kim.
at price.
Well-
I don't care what, it's like, we're looking at flexibility and doing the best possible thing for the community,
Right.
Right,
Well, that's how I think, you know me.
I know, but, all right,
I
so,
know.
Madam Chair, if I
Big
may, just kind
difference.
of have an underlining statement to all of this. So I believe, again, we're kind of deciding 2 different things. One of them is what we're here to decide today, or the immediate decision that we need to make is what are we actually going to test in Pilot 2? And we'll definitely test the K427 in all of the configurations, and I'm confident that it will definitely be an upgrade in lighting for the community. I don't think anyone's going to have any issues with that. And we're testing the concerns that we received from pilot number 1, what is the best possible thing we can do? And that is what we're recommending as the Hubble Beacon slide. Does it need to be that one?
what we found with pilot number 1 is we felt that it was a very flat, not interesting attempt on the part of Siemens to convince us to just go down one road. That's what we felt. So we went to Ernesto and Guy and said, we just didn't think that that had a lot of imagination. It was a cookie cutter, blah, blah, blah. So let's give them a chance to show us how creative they are. And that was supposed to be the goal from this, not, because I've never been known to mince words. That was the goal of this meeting. So what I'm asking is, have we achieved that? And if so, then we have to go ahead with the pilots. I mean, otherwise, this will be, we'll own the lighting fixtures for 10 years and we'll still be deciding, and your contracts will be long gone. And so we have to move. So,
I'm ready.
Ernesto, do you feel that we're ready?
Yeah,
Because then we
feel-
can blame you.
No, but I think that this is the opportunity to ask all your questions. That's why I said, Steve, if he has any additional questions, this is the time to do it. But
All right, John had his hand up.
Ernesto, do you have a recommendation as far as these selections that we're about to make?
yes, I do. The pilot was given a lot of consideration to make sure we addressed everything, all the concerns.
Yeah, but what
So
fixture
we're-
do you,
So I like the K427 fixture myself. That's the
one you like?
King 427.
Okay.
I think it provides the best value
that's the
for
one
community.
Steve picked, this Steve.
Right.
No, it isn't. It is or it isn't?
The Hubble's the one I picked because of
Steve,
flexibility.
Steve likes the Hubble.
Then
Because
we'll
it
be
has better
using, we'll
disbursement.
be using the Hubble. That's, based
No,
on.
no, but if you like a different one than we picked, that's not good.
We
I
are,
mean,
rec-
we pay you.
we're gonna be using both.
Oh,
Yeah,
both,
they're gonna
okay,
show
all right,
both.
good.
Well,
All right, so we're good? Are we good?
I think the question that you mean to ask Ernesto, not considering the King K427, because that's the baseline.
Yeah,
Of the other four,
yeah,
do you have a
preference.
preference?
Right,
yeah.
I think that's what she's asking.
well, that's what I was asking, but he was evading it.
Well,
No.
But I'm glad you caught him. I'm glad.
So
Thank you for staying on top of it.
based on performance, I recommend the Hubble. Now, what I don't like about the Hubble is that it's very expensive.
Right.
So one of the concerns that I have with actually moving forward with the Hubble is that you're gonna put it out there, and if it looks good, and that's what the people want, they're going to
Pay
hold
for it.
you to installing Hubbles, which we're looking at $1,500 a pop just for the fixture. So, but as far as to your question, Rosemary, what's my recommendation based on performance for a new selection? It's the Hubble.
Okay, so let's go back to, because I want to keep Bunny calm, otherwise she'll be sending me emails and texts over the weekend. If we were going to say we're going to put the Hubble in the places where it would be needed, because it's not going on every pole, we understand that, where would that throw us in the budget, as far as the budget? Because I thought we budgeted high end. Or,
I believe, are we covered? If we were to select the Hubble to be installed throughout for.
where
we
it
have
should be
where mushrooms
installed,
have-
not throughout.
Right, wherever we have mushroom heads.
Right.
So what budget-wise are we going to be covered? Because
Yeah, I
Rosemary
mean,
is
where does
correct.
it take us?
Yeah,
Where does it
Rosemary is
take-
correct. We had looked at pricing
Yeah, we really budgeted, we really budgeted to, at the high end.
at the high end, right? So,
So where does this get,
So
where,
I-
if the test worked and everybody loved it and blah, 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 and we said, okay, we're gonna use this and this, what is the total picture gonna look like? We have to know that too.
so what I would like to be given the opportunity to look at those numbers, or
Okay,
I don't have that in front of me.
Tonight, in an hour? No, kidding. No, if you, I mean, the
She's
thing
not putting you
is
any
we have,
pressure.
because you're absolutely correct. We don't want to be going in there and doing this and then saying, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. It's going to be another $500,000.
So,
But you're right, Rosemary, the
Yeah.
price will be slightly higher.
Well, but we have to know.
Right.
We have to recalculate
Of
what we
course.
have and where we fit.
Of course, we
Yes.
can get you that information.
so question, because I just heard this and I want to make sure I understand it correctly, is as a result of this pilot, if you choose the Hubble, you're not going to install the Hubble on all 716 poles?
Correct.
Correct.
That's the way
We'll
we
install them on some of them, but you'll still use the King on other ones?
No, no.
Okay, so it's an either-or selection process?
It's whatever the community decides for us
Right.
to do.
So,
If
again-
they decide that the Hubble is the one that they want.
Right.
The Hubble will be installed throughout wherever we have much
Correct.
heads.
Okay, so we're doing the pilot, here's the King, is that good enough for you? Or do you want the Hubble? And it's gonna
Exactly.
be an either-or. And the result of that either-or is $400,000 difference. It's a 57% increase if you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
So it's not, we're gonna put some Hubble someplace where we
No,
think
we're
they're
not
at,
gonna
and
do
we're
that.
gonna use the King. It's, you know, do
Right.
you want the
He not-
convertible or you want the sedan?
Right.
The Mercedes convertible,
Well,
thank you, or it's.
So just, and it's $400,000 by my rough calculation.
Well, the thing is they have to get back to us, so,
Well,
but,
we have their numbers that.
no,
they
but
gave us
I
here.
want. No, it does stop the test, because he has to get back to us on Monday and say, if you do this test and you use this fixture, and this is how many we're gonna put in, this is how much over budget you're gonna be, because we would have to make a decision.
What was the budget?
We have it we have it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we just have to know. We have to make an intelligent decision.
I'm thinking it's gonna be like,
I think we're gonna be within our
300.
budget. I know, I think we're gonna be in it. We went high end. We just have to make decisions that we have to fulfill our fiduciary duty to the community.
so here's a question. If we choose the recommendation, the best fixture for the most
Right.
amount of money, right? And let's say we go ahead with that pilot, and then later on, from a financial perspective.
We're
you
not
go,
gonna go ahead with the pilot unless we know
Okay.
what our financial picture is.
Thank you.
We
because
have to know
I don't
that.
know, that's why I'm
No,
asking
we
the
have to know
question.
that. And then the board has to say, listen, if we go ahead with the pilot and they love this, and we go to do it and it's gonna be $100,000 more, then we just have to look at our numbers because it's really worth it. I just don't want us to be committing to $500,000 and then have to, like,
That's the
shoot
purpose of
myself.
the pilot.
Right.
It's a
Right,
non-committed.
so-
Well, it's the purpose of the planning of the pilot, because the pilot would be wrong if we piloted something that we knew we cannot afford. So that's what
Right.
we have to.
That was the
do.
point that I
purpose.
brought up.
And-
Right.
And that's why we love it.
Yeah.
All right, yes, Bill.
Yeah, what I heard you say, Ernesto, is that you would either use the Hubble or the King
So,
in the cul-de-sac?
right, so what we're trying to get right now is a selection between the King and the Hubble. Because we heard, well, the King is great, but we want the best performance. So we're giving you a fixture that provides top performance. So all we're trying to do with the pilot is to select. You want the King or you want the Hubble? Now, that's it. So at this point, that's all we're doing. What I suggested, that Rosemary just mentioned, is that if you put the Hubble out there, and I live in that cul-de-sac, and I just absolutely love the Hubble, you're gonna have a boardroom full of people that wanna make sure that you put the Hubble on. So I think that it's prudent for us to come back to you and tell you, if the Hubble is selected, this is gonna be your delta in cost.
But why are you only limiting it to one?
Like I said before.
For the 716 poles.
We can do another pilot.
You can do another one.
and
No,
select
you
another
won't
one.
need to do another pilot.
So how do you-
If this cul-de-sac would require a Hubble, this one would require a K, why
So
are
you
you
want
limiting?
Siemens to make that choice for you then, as to which
Well, that's what
one-
we talked about earlier.
Well, a lot of
What
people,
fits in the given situation?
a lot of people
Yes.
are not going to see the Hubble versus the King. And there are cul-de-sacs that, like Via Vista, which is a big circle. Putting all Hubbles up there might be far too
Yeah,
much.
too much.
Because of the way the lighting is set up. They're very closely spaced light poles on that cul-de-sac.
Right.
So you would probably be better off with the King. But on a dark street like Carmenita, that Hubble's is really gonna be quite a bit dramatic difference than the King.
Absolutely. So at that, and like we said before, once you select a fixture, Siemens will tune that fixture up to fit the circumstances where you're
Okay.
placing that
All
fixture.
right.
Well, shouldn't we pick the head that gives the best distribution for each location and let staff make that decision?
Yeah, if I can clarify, so like we said earlier, it's not necessarily that the Hubble period is a brighter fixture. It's what we're talking about when we're talking about choosing the King K427 or choosing the Hubble or the Cree. We're talking about a family of fixtures. It's like a car manufacturer. Both the King and the Hubble are capable of being brighter and better than what we saw on Avenida Sosiega. They're also capable of being more controlled than what we saw there. So choosing one family of fixtures will be able to meet the needs of the community in all the different locations. I advise against mixing and matching between different manufacturers. We would lose out on volume discounts, and there really isn't,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be a need to do that.
Right, so once you select a fixture, that's the fixture that we would pick for all of your mushroom
Well,
type
why wouldn't
heads.
you pick, why
And
wouldn't
they will
you,
be adjusted.
why
That's
wouldn't
correct.
you have a distribution that matches the need at the location? In other
Well,
words,
we will.
between the two.
No, we will. Yeah, the consultant, when they do install them, they'll tune the fixture to that particular location.
So what he's saying is that that particular fixture can be adjusted.
Got it.
Right.
Yes, each fixture can be adjusted, yes.
I
So-
have one last quick question, and this is changing the subject. And when do we need to talk about the maintenance aspect? You said they're on it for 3 years of maintenance. We need to find out what their requirements are, how soon they're going to get out to address the issues. What does their contract say?
We already have that. Their contract is already codified for how many times they go out there, how quickly they fix it.
How quickly,
what-
yes.
All of that.
So
That's all in
that's
the-
already been discussed?
That's all in the contract, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's my last comment.
So, Madam Chair, if I may suggest, I would suggest that you do select the fixture and you do authorize us to move forward with the pilot, subject to the getting the price
Right.
difference on the Hubble.
Okay, well, I thought we had done that. We, we have agreed, okay, do we have to vote to agree on the fixture subject to the numbers, right? Okay,
Yes.
so do I have a motion? Good, Steve.
Yeah, I move that we adopt the Hubble slide as the fixture of choice based on performance, as well as there's more areas that's more suited
This
to.
is a very big motion. She's going to get tired.
Yeah, well, I'm just
All right,
giving
all right.
rationale.
So have a second on that?
Second.
All right, second. So, and this is contingent upon
The numbers.
the pricing information to see where, okay? Which we will get when?
We can have that to you by Monday, I would think.
Well, I
a
won't be in
proposal.
Monday, so Tuesday is fine.
Okay, Tuesday, thank you.
Okay.
So we're in
And we'll
discussion.
email that information to
We're
all
in
of you.
discussion before you vote now. So I'll just make one comment,
Yes.
which is, they're going to get you the numbers. Do you want staff to also get you numbers on a secondary choice?
No, he'll
Okay.
get, once he gets me the numbers for the first choice, we'll know. Why should he waste his time with the second one? Because the first one, if the first one is wrong, he has to do the second one. If the first one is right, we're good to go. All right, so all those in favor?
So you can get the pricing for it?
This meeting is, yeah, he's gonna get it by Tuesday.
I know, and when can we expect the pilot to start? What would be our?
We're gonna get the price to you. If you give us the go-ahead to move with the Hubble, then we'll go ahead and that pilot will begin installation on,
I would have to go and
Right,
get exact timing. If I had to be put on the spot for a number now, I would say the King K427s will likely be available before the Hubble beacon slides. Conservatively, I'd say 8 weeks is what it would take to get the pilot installed.
September.
okay, so because we have to make sure we get this information out to our communication department.
8
Okay,
weeks,
thi-
8 weeks. Okay.
This meeting, and I have to thank all of you for your tremendous involvement. I'm looking at the clock. For your involvement in this, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you very much.